Hey guys, it's Dustin Garrett. Thanks. Live with CT. Play a video of that CT basics. So let's just leave it.
It's pretty well established that your brain's really important. It's like if your body was a computer, your brain's the mainframe. It controls everything, whether you're aware of it or not. Cerebral palsy means brain disease causing paralysis. So essentially, cerebral palsy refers to damage to the brain that causes loss of muscle control. Like, for example, if the cerebellum was damaged, patients might have issues with fine motor skills like writing or typing. That being said, though, cerebral palsy is a broad umbrella term to basically cover a wide variety of issues, since ultimately the muscles affected and severity depends on which part of the mainframe's been affected, right?
You're talking
Cerebral
about.
palsy is really important. It's like if your body was a computer, it's pretty well established that your brain's really important. It's like if your body was a computer, your brain's the mainframe. It controls everything, whether you're aware of it or not. Cerebral palsy means brain disease causing paralysis. So essentially, cerebral palsy refers to damage to the brain that causes loss of muscle control. Like, for example, if the cerebellum was damaged, patients might have issues with fine motor skills like writing or typing. That being said, though, cerebral palsy is a broad umbrella term to basically cover a wide variety of issues, since ultimately the muscles affected and severity depends on which part of the mainframe's been affected, right? Cerebral palsy is considered a neurodevelopmental disease, meaning that something happens to an area in the brain during its initial development, which is an extremely sensitive period. If that area doesn't develop right, then it can't carry out whatever function it's supposed to control. Now, what's this vague something that can happen though? Well, I said something because there's such a wide variety of causes. The majority of cerebral palsy cases are thought to happen before birth or prenatally, which typically means the underlying cause is really hard to pin down. Exposure to radiation or infection during fetal development can cause cerebral palsy. Hypoxia to the developing fetus has been linked as well. In this case, the developing brain doesn't get enough oxygen, potentially from problems like the placenta not being able to supply enough oxygen and nutrients. Cerebral palsy doesn't have to happen prenatally, though. In some postnatal cases are things like head trauma, or again, an infection, or a period of oxygen deprivation. Although most cases are likely due to some trauma or injury, a very small proportion of cases are due to a genetic
So
mutation.
guys, it's that guy.
Even though this brain damage or injury or abnormality is permanent, one super important point to remember about cerebral palsy is that it doesn't get worse over time, and for that reason, it's considered a non progressive disease. Cerebral palsy is classified by the type of muscle movements that result from the brain injury and how that affects what activities the patient can perform. The first type is called spastic cerebral palsy, which accounts for about 70% of cases, and is characterized by having really tight or stiff muscles, which can make the patient's movements seem jerky. This tightness results from a lesion in the upper motor neurons. So, with a lesion, which just means some kind of abnormality, the ability of some of these neurons to receive GABA might be impaired. GABA is the main inhibitory neurotransmitter. So, if nerve impulses can't be inhibited, which is a double negative, then those nerves are basically overexcited, leading to hypertonia, which is an abnormal increase in muscle activity. Basically, like if the muscles were constantly flexed. This is why some people with spastic cerebral palsy have a scissor gait. Think about how difficult it'd be to walk when your adductor muscles were always partly flexed, which causes your knees and your thighs to constantly touch. Similarly, some patients have a toe walk because their calves are always flexed, which pulls the Achilles tendon up and causes someone to go up on their toes. A second type of cerebral palsy is athetoid or dyskinetic cerebral palsy, and this one involves damage or injury to the basal ganglia. The basal ganglia is this structure here which essentially helps us initiate and prevent certain movements. If the basal ganglia becomes damaged, patients can lose the ability to prevent movements, and therefore they can have involuntary movements, meaning out of their control. So dyskinetic cerebral palsy is characterized by dystonia and or chorea. Dystonia is random, slow, and uncontrolled movements in the limbs and trunk. Chorea is random dance like movements, since the small, uncontrolled movements seem to move from muscle to muscle. Finally, there's ataxic cerebral palsy. Taxis refers to an order or arrangement, so ataxic essentially means without order, which is in reference to patients with this type being shaky or uncoordinated. And this is caused by damage to the cerebellum. The cerebellum helps us with coordination in fine or precise movements. These patients often have clumsy or unstable movements and poor balance when doing things like walking or picking something up. Although different from patient to patient, many patients with muscle control issues have other symptoms as well. Patients often experience pain from tightened muscles or abnormal posture and stiff joints. Also, abnormal movements might make it difficult to sleep at night, and patients can develop sleep disorders. Even eating can become difficult as well, which can range from the preparation of food to the action of chewing and swallowing the food. Other brain related issues are also associated, like difficulties with speaking and communication, vision problems, and learning disabilities. Since cerebral palsy involves a permanent abnormality to the brain structure, it's not curable. But that doesn't mean it's not treatable. Treatment for cerebral palsy usually involves a multidisciplinary approach, pulling from a number of clinical specialties like neurologists, rehabilitation specialists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, and others, hopefully to find a unique approach for each patient, ultimately improving their quality of life. Physical therapy can be used to build strength and improve walking ability, along with stretching to reduce contracture, which is a permanent shortening of muscle tissue from being hypertonic or contracted for so long. Sometimes muscle relaxants are given or botulinum toxin is injected into certain muscles to reduce hypertonicity and relax the muscles, which can both help reduce pain associated with hypertonus and also help fit patients with specific orthotic braces. Sometimes surgery might also be performed to help with a variety of issues, like loosening tight muscles, straightening.
Okay, guys, so that's just let's get look. One thing people are not trying is CBD oil. Um, I can't try it right here, but I heard that it can do on your fastest speed. Among other things, I'll need it. Live and sleepy. I'm done. Like, share, subscribe, or if you don't want to, I don't care.